Professor Nelson, I'm back in Florida. It's a little bit late sending this, cutting that deadline, but trip went well. But anyway, I went and saw Love, Liberty, Lost. Jalen was there, great play, and I'm not really a Shakespeare fan, but it was honestly had me rolling and laughing hysterically. And I sat right in the front row, which was kind of cool. It was really interesting to see that Taryn was in the play. She did great as Jacqueline Netta, and CJ was Moth, which was he was hilarious when he did the play with Inside the Play as Hercules. Anyway, I guess to cover a few of Stanislavski's, because I know it's a video, so it's a little bit easier to do a paper. Stanislavski's points or in system steps, given circumstances. It's really interesting to see like Barone and King Ferdinand, and then Dumaine and Longueville. Their given circumstances are that these lords and they're signing to, King Ferdinand's court, but they have come up with these rules and these interesting things that kind of go against, what we are as men desire and how God created us. And their circumstances are is that, especially I think in Barone's character, because I think Dumaine and Longueville are kind of background characters in a way. They're not, but they kind of are. They seem similar in my opinion, at least in the way it was portrayed. Barone, though, is definitely his own character. He's kind of the rebellion of the group because he has this, I don't even hire the actor to memorize his lines for the first monologue, but it was insane. And he portrayed it so well, and you can see the rebellion through him really peek out first that he is, you know, uh, he loves women. I mean, he loves women, and that's his natural thing, and he goes against the court. But eventually, he signs and goes against it because you can see that his circumstances that he's, following what King Ferdinand wants him to do and what the majority wants him to do. So I found that interesting, and the actors that did it, especially the young man who played King Ferdinand, because I've seen him in Over the River. He is phenomenal. Um, they portrayed their given circumstances. They really took hold of it and like this is what it is, and they made it their own, which was amazing. But next to move on, Magic If. The Magic If is I love doing that one. I just think it's cool to put yourself in a character's shoes, especially when I did it with. I know you didn't see it, but the Irish play did Dancing at Lugnas. I really love the character. I really identified with him a lot, and I think it's important because you really do have to understand where your character's coming from. For Barone, his just who he is, and you can see him, he's kind of a rebellious person, and the actor that played him portrayed it so well. He sees the rebellion, he sees what he wants to love, but he's going against his natural instinct as much as the characters do. And it's interesting. Or you see it with Moth. Moth Magic. If he has this personality of, he's he's a servant, but at the same time, like when he gets to play Hercules, he loves it. He's so excited, and that's who he is. And CJ really did a great job of portraying that like. I'm small and I'm behind, but I'm funny. I have my moments, and you know what? I do have passion. I do have life, and I want to be something big. I want to be something more. And he could understand and relate to that character, which I thought was really interesting. And it was, with the king, with Barone, same way. Magic If, he is rebellious at heart, and the girls too. They come and they, are there just to meet with the lords and think they're on equal levels, but and then they find out they're not, and then at the same time they end up falling in love with these same lords, and you really have to throw yourself into this like what is love? And I think all the actors in this play really had to do that. Like, they had to find another understanding of love because love is different for everybody. And they had to really find out what is it love between two humans that don't like each other, that are on even different keels. And love at that time was, I think love doesn't really change, but there's so many different variations of love. And especially at that time, they weren't on the same keel, I guess, women and men. And so it was really interesting that the actresses and actors did a really great job at going back and kind of portraying what a time was like different back in the old days, and portraying love from that perspective. So I guess the next one would be goal and objective and super objective. So the objective and the super objective, which was really cool, was for the lords was to shoo these women away. Like we'll deal with them in the field. It's nothing much. But then they really have to, and they want to be, and I think that's their immediate objective, is that they want to just be lords. That's it. I love this place. Help France, rule with France. Do what we can with these people. And by the end of it, their super objective it changes, and their objective changes, that they want to find love, and that they're understanding that there's more than just being rich or famous or being a king, and they end up falling in love with these women, and they want to be with these women, and they want to understand these women. What I found was really interesting, and the women are the same. By the end of it, they want to understand and love these men, even though that the Princess of France has to leave, and she has to go home because of her father, and so their objective does change over time, but their super objective eventually by the end is to, keep love alive, and to find your partner, and, to love them. So the next one and the last one I'll do is Images. I liked Images. They did a great job. Honestly, it was phenomenal. They made me laugh. They put images in my head of how they treat each other, how they respect each other. Just being on stage. They created this era of just real romanticism and love. Or when they came with the beers, it was being over dramatic and exaggerated. And I could kind of see it in my head, like, oh, that's funny. Then I could see what they would do in a movie like that or something. And the girls were all just laughing and giggling, being like, "Oh, we'll mess with them right back." And so they did really be able to. And images are important because you kind of have to imagine it in your own head. That's what you're trying to do for the audience. Is you're trying to get how can the audience relate to this in their own head? Because if it's bland, they're just going to see what they're on stage. But if you can really make them think, they're going to think about it in their own head. And that to me is really important. And they did that, and they crushed it. And so I thought it was really wonderful that they were able to do that. And so they created a prominent image, and it worked out really well. And overall, the play was really well done. And I could honestly go over the system steps, although I'm about to hit 6 minutes. I really loved it. It was phenomenal. And I know there's Shakespeare next fall, and that is something if I have the time for and the tenacity for, I actually would, after seeing Liberty students do it, I would love to go out for something like that. So overall, it was wonderful. And thank you again for a wonderful semester, Mr. Nelson.